Dusty, my man, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
Really good, really good.
Good.
Just got done training and ran back here so we get this rocking.
Oh, so you train early?
Oh, yeah.
So now let me ask you, you left, you're no longer in Arizona, right?
Yeah, I'm in South Carolina now.
How did that happen and why?
After I got sick, it was time to go slow down a little bit. I realized I was pretty comfortable. You know what I mean? I've been there a long time, kind of had the city rigged, and decided I'd come out here and start from scratch, and it's been good.
Are you originally from Arizona? Is that where you're born?
No, but I've been there over 20 years.
Okay.
And obviously the important years, you know, so basically 12 on up to, 38, I was there.
So why South Carolina? You have family there?
No, actually, a girl I'd met was here, and I said, screw it, let's go out here and see. And then came out here, and it's much slower where I'm at, but it's actually welcome. I came back to Scottsdale for a week about 2 months ago, and I was like, oh crap, this town moves fast. I forgot.
Oh, really? So
yeah.
So where in South Carolina are you?
I'm in Greenville.
So is that you see a lot of trees and all that?
Oh yeah, there's green, there's trees. Plus I'm like, I'm literally 2 hours from everything. Like Atlanta's 2 hours away, Charlotte's an hour and a half away.
Are you talking airplane hours or driving?
No, driving.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm pretty central. I mean, I went to Nashville a week ago just to go train and hang out. It took 4 hours to get there.
Oh, okay.
In a car.
So
yeah.
just to train, you just drive 4 hours.
Oh yeah, well, I went down there and filmed, of course. I mean, if I'm going to train, I'm going to film and somehow turn it into money. So
yeah, and that's awesome. So you just picked up and left, and did you just found a place to stay, or did you look around?
No, I mean, she had a place here, so I came. I was staying at her spot, and then it was kind of like, we'll see. I wanted to see what I thought of here. Was looking at Tennessee and other options as well, but right now this is pretty comfortable, and I still have a house in Arizona too. So. Oh,
okay. So you're not all gone.
Oh no, the market's too good there. You can never be gone.
Right. Now, that's awesome. So you mentioned you left after you were sick. So listen, tell me the story of exactly what happened. All I know is what we see on the internet. Dusty in the hospital, Dusty in a coma. And we didn't really get the information that we from the horse's mouth. So that's why I'm asking. I wanted to ask you if you want to share exactly what happened.
Yeah, I mean, it was really basic, man. I was. It's funny, but you know how it is as a bodybuilder. Like my life is the same every single week. Thursday is the day I go see my barber, get beard cleaned up, head into train afterwards. And I was getting ready to go, and I got like a piece of steak caught in my throat. You know when it's caught, but you can breathe, so you're fine. So it was stuck, and I was like, whatever. I literally was still getting dressed and moving on with life. And finally, I swallowed it, and I could feel it like drag the whole way down my throat. And I was like, whew, that sucked. But didn't really obviously think anything of it. We've all kind of been there. And I was driving to the to my barber, and I was talking to a friend of mine on the phone, and she's a nurse. I told her what happened. I said, man, this is going to be it. I was joking. I was like, I'm going to end up dying from a piece of ninja steak. Like that's because I was just bitching that it was sore,
Yeah.
So I went in, saw my barber, got cleaned up. And I told her about it when I was in there. And when she leaned me back, she put me back up, and I'm like, man, I'm still feeling off. So as I walked out to my car, it's kind of an empty parking lot. So I got around the other side of my truck, and I was like, I wonder if it went down the wrong pipe or is sitting wrong still. So I decided, well, if I just force myself to puke, it'll come up and I'll be fine. And I mean, I can do that. I can just convince myself, I think from years of leg training, make myself puke. So I leaned over and puked, and it was just pure blood. And I was like, oh.
That must have scared the shit out of you.
I was like, well, that ain't good. So what was weird is I just, like reflex, I put my foot by it, and I videoed the blood because I wanted to show how much it was. So I sent it to my friend, and I'm like, hey, is this a problem? And she's like, go to the hospital. And I lived in North Scottsdale, right by the Mayo Clinic. So I was heading up there and I'm on the phone with her and I was like, well, I'm gonna stop up at the house real quick, let my dogs out, and then I'll go. And she's like, no.
So she told you to go immediately.
Right now.
So she had an idea.
Yeah. So I went in and I just went to the ER, you know, told them what happened. It was funny. I mean, I showed the lady the picture and she was like, okay. And she's like, all right, well, we'll call your name. And I'm sitting in the lobby and my friend's texting me and she's like, are you back there yet? And I said, no. I said, I'm just waiting in the lobby. And she's like, you're waiting in the lobby? Did you show them? And I said, yeah, I showed a lady. And she's like, they don't understand. And she was like, how do you feel now? And I said, well, I'm nauseous again.
Did she tell you what she thought at that moment? What it could be?
No, I think she, in hindsight, because we talked afterwards, she knew.
She didn't want to scare you too much.
Yeah, she just wanted me to be calm. So she was like, are you feeling nauseous again? And I said, yeah. She says, that's blood building up because, you know, you can't digest blood. So she's like, go ask them for a bag. And then, you know, if you can get sick, make yourself sick in the bag. And I said, okay. So I went up and grabbed a bag. And as soon as I puked in the bag and it, you know, filled up with blood again, a nurse came out and saw it. And she goes, did you just do that? And I was like, yeah. And she literally turned and like kicked open a door and screamed down a hallway, I need a fucking room right now. And I was like, oh, okay, this is serious. Like, you know, so I went back, you know, got set up. And every so often I would need to get sick again. It was just more blood. But in my head, I don't know why, I was just chilled with it. I was like, oh, whatever it is, they'll fix it, you know? And the surgeon came back and he said, hey, you probably, you know, you cut your esophagus somehow. We're going to go in there and... How did
they x-ray you or did they...
No.
Okay, so they were just guessing.
Because I described what happened.
Okay.
So he was like, all right, we're going to go in and suture or basically a cauterizing type thing and you'll be out. So I said, okay. I called my mom's boyfriend and I said, hey, you mind getting my dogs? I don't know when I'm going to be out of the house. Come down here, get my keys. So that was handled. And then I went in and then 20 some odd days later, I woke up and it was funny because you wake up and you're so out of it. I mean, so I wake up and Matt Kafora, my training partner, is in my room. And what was funny was it didn't even like adjust to me. Like, why is he in my room? Or why do I have a room?
So did you realize as soon as you woke up, oh, I'm in the hospital?
Yes, because I knew I had went into the hospital.
So you remember that, yes.
So I opened my eyes and I saw him sitting there and he goes, hey. And I'm like, what's up? And he goes, you know what day it is? And I said, yeah, it's Thursday because obviously I got my beard done. He's like, nope, it's not Thursday. He's like, do you know what month it is? And I'm like, huh? Like, I immediately knew something was wrong. So I had went in on May 13th, and this was June 8th that I woke up.
So did they put you in a coma?
Yeah, so what ended up happening was when they got in there, I guess from just years of eating, and I didn't realize this, but I'm sure a lot of bodybuilders, you have a little acid reflux here and there and that, and I never really thought anything of it, and it never felt bad, but it apparently had thinned the lining of my whole esophagus. So when that went down, it basically was like a razor blade and cut the entire length of my esophagus. So they went in thinking they were going to suture like a little thing, and it was the entire esophagus. So once that happens, apparently they have a procedure where they like, I can't even explain it well, but they fill up a balloon in your throat and then somehow, you know, get it to cauterize whatever. But when I was under, of course, I started having other issues. So I ended up with pneumonia. Then they had to put me in a coma to let that take place. But then I ended up with pneumonia. And the reason that happened was because they weren't used to dealing with someone, not only my size, but with the way I eat and drink. The first thing they were doing was dehydrating me on accident. So they were giving me fluids that you give a normal person, which of course was not nearly enough. So I started holding water, blood pressure shot up, all those things. Then they also ran into with the drugs. I don't really know why, but they actually had to ask. They asked my mother, they're like, is he an addict? Because he's going through drugs like nothing we've ever seen before. And apparently I was just metabolizing them. So of course I'm finding all this out after the fact, but so I wake up and I find out like they were trying to put me out with drugs. I would wake up and then apparently this is normal, but you wake up violent.
Oh, okay.
Because you don't even know what's going on. You got tubes in your throat. I broke a hospital bed. I mean, it took multiple, actually, I think Matt actually had to one time help them hold me down to get me back secured. They ended up actually bringing in restraints that are made out of like seatbelts. So my feet were seatbelted down, my arms were seatbelted in.
And this all happened while you were in a coma?
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, we'll see. Apparently, I was in and out at this point, but I remember none of this because obviously I was so drugged. Like, I kind of thought that maybe in time some of these things would come back. I remember none of that.
Nothing.
So, and I guess what it really came down to was managing a body like mine is different, any of ours, because of the way we eat, those types of things. And the worst part about it coming out, of course, as a bodybuilder is everyone assumes that it was bodybuilding related. And I guess indirectly it was eating a lot of food and having, acid reflux related. But of course they're thinking the other route, drugs and this and that. So you come back around, they almost lost me a couple of times. But thankfully, this friend of mine that knew bodybuilding, knew me, she actually runs a hospital in Georgia. So they were actually getting on meetings every day with the Mayo Clinic in the morning on how to attack keeping me alive every day. So that was interesting.
So that was really, really serious.
Oh yeah. I found out, Tanaz, obviously, our dental surgeon.
Yeah.
Her dad basically explained to me that there were 3 things that I was experiencing at one time that could all kill you, but I had all of them at once. Like he pretty much assumed I was going to die as soon as he saw what I was going through. He was like,
wow.
Oh, that's that. So when I finally came around, I woke up. It was pretty quick mentally. Obviously, the only thing that was interesting was basic things. Eating was a chore. You know what I mean?
I was just about to ask you, how would the food go down after that?
Yeah, it was just like it wasn't even of that type. I mean, they started me out on like soft stuff, but it was just literally like using your hands to get stuff. So they told me when I came to and was coherent, so probably a day or so later, they were like, all right, we have to teach you how to, they were surprised I could talk well right away. But they were like, we got to teach you how to walk and all those things. They were like, so, it'll be about another 3 weeks in the hospital. And I was like, nah.
So you laying there, you up, you coherent, and they tell you it's going to take about 3 weeks for you to be back to normal, to walk again.
Yeah, just to walk.
And you haven't even moved yet.
Yeah, no. I mean, they were still getting me out of the bed and doing anything like that. And I was like, no, we got to do it faster. And he was like, it's really how it works. And I was like, I just knew between sports, and I really believe with bodybuilding that we have a connection to our body that's just different. So the long story short is 3 days later, I left the hospital.
You walked out. You walked out of there.
Yeah, I mean, they made me take a walker, but I was walking on my own. So we're just wired different. I mean, even their PT came in and, after my 3rd visit, he's kind of like, yes, you're not functioning and should walk around like it's nothing, but there's nothing I can do additional other than time and repetition to get you functioning. So I'll advise you can go home.
How do they fix that problem? How do they stitch it up? But they open you all the way. They have to get in there somehow.
Yeah, well, it was already open, so I mean.
No, I mean like where? How do they get to get?
Oh, it's right down your throat. They take originally what they would have done was just send a, kind of like how they do a scope. They send a camera down and then another thing to actually do it. They did that exact thing, only once they got in there, they had to go through this route, like I said, that fills up a balloon and it actually holds open so that it can hold the shape it needs to be in while it's essentially recovering on its own and pulled back in. So, you know, fortunately for me, it's wild because a lot of people, when I came out, of course, they're like, "Oh, that must have been crazy for you." And I was like, "No, I was asleep."
Yeah. So now you're a big guy, and I know you eat a lot of food. So how much weight did you lose?
That was the crazy part. So
people always ask how I got here. I was willing to work just a little harder than everyone else. Every damn day. If I can have hundreds of hours back, you know I'm gonna grab them. Spending hours prepping chicken, rice, and vegetables, F that. I rely on perfect nutrition. I rely on trifecta.
I went in, I was 306 when I got to the hospital, and I left at 2:30 a month later.
Oh, yeah.
And then what was crazy, because I talked to the doctor, and I was like, I don't understand. I said, because I can take time off from the gym. I'm like you, I never really liked eating for bodybuilding. Like, that was just what we have to do. So when I usually take breaks, I don't eat at all. I mean, you know, twice a day, multiple times a year. And I was like, I don't lose muscle like that. He's like, you don't understand. We didn't just have you laying down. We turn your body off. So it's not even, the muscle and the mind aren't even communicating.
Oh, so Jesus, yeah.
So you atrophy even faster than you would if you were just locked down. He's like, because there's no communication between your brain and the muscle at all during that time. I mean, when I came out, I'll send you some pictures, but it's comical because 2:30 for a lot of people, it doesn't sound small.
Yeah,
obviously.
that's me like right now. But going from
the thing is when you drop down like that, and the only thing you lose is muscle.
Right.
So it's like I explain to people, when I'm done with all this, I would like to come down and be 230 or so. It'll be a very athletic, solid look. I mean, that's still big for most people.
Mm-hmm.
But when you've atrophied that quickly, and it's literally all muscle, so the fat was still there, all these other things, it was just pure muscle. I mean, even my face was like gaunt, like when you compete, sucked down, and it was wild. I mean, I looked in the mirror and I was just like, where did I go?
Yeah, that's crazy. But tell me, how hard was it now after you left the hospital? How hard was it to start eating again? And how much time, how long did you have to wait before you were able to eat real solid food?
Well, this is where apparently my stubbornness comes into play. When I left, they said, like, you can eat, but just be cautious and, chew your food and you'll be fine. So I left the hospital on June 11th, actually June 10th, sorry. And the first thing I did was went to a steakhouse and ate a steak. I was like, I gotta get this thing out of my head. Steak tried to kill me. I'm gonna kill another
So you
cow.
went right back to the steakhouse.
Yep. And I ate, and it was funny, but I think what's weird in hindsight, Dennis, is, and I know you'll understand this, when I got back to training and posting, and it was obviously very light and pathetic, but a lot of people were saying like, oh, it's so motivating, it's so empowering. And to me, it was like, I don't know, what else was I supposed to do? Like, it doesn't enter your mind when this is what you do. Like, I got out. My mother came and lived with me for a week just to drive me, because the hospital was kind of like, you're not ready to drive. And one thing I didn't realize was being on drugs for a month, asinine amounts, I don't think they left my system completely for weeks.
Okay, so you could tell you were still kind of out of it.
You'll love this. So when I woke up and I got out and I realized, I was like, okay, what day is it? And we always record my podcast on a Monday. So I text Ron Partlow and Scott McNally on like Sunday. I said, are we doing the podcast tomorrow? And they were like, okay, you're alive, check. And you want to do the podcast tomorrow? Okay. So we do this podcast, and apparently I was all over the place.
Really?
like couldn't hold a thought here, there, everywhere. So we record this 2-hour podcast, And the next day, like Scott, he's like a really nice guy. He calls me and he's trying to like, so the thing about the recording yesterday, like he doesn't want to say it. And I was like, oh, was it terrible? And he's like, yeah.
So you,
like, oh, okay.
You were still high as a kite. So
man, I kind of wish I could hear it now, because he was like, yeah, you were just kind of rambling about a little bit of everything at this point.
But another thing is that shows me that that you have a lot of support is that as soon as you ended up in the hospital, I don't remember exactly who started it, but somebody started the GoFundMe page. And the amount of support that you got in a short time was unbelievable.
Oh yeah, it was shocking, because so I woke up. Dante Trudell, who used to always wrote all my training, is a good friend of mine. He actually started it when I was in, and I woke up, and I'm not even thinking about it, but I do online training. Been gone for a month, so half of my business is gone. Obviously, the bills kept rolling in, and the medical bills. Now I do have insurance, but I think a lot of people don't realize, A, insurance isn't what it used to be, and B, my hospital stay was about $600,000.
Wow.
So I woke up, and he actually texted me. He said, hey, I know you don't really like these things, but I started to GoFundMe for you. I've always viewed them because it's something. It's not like I look at the reasons some people put up GoFundMes, and I'm like, get a job. Or you know what I mean? So it's tricky, because I'll see people do them for like a bodybuilding show. Like, I'm doing a show, you want to give me some money? And I'm always like, that's weird. But then again, people can donate if they want to, or they don't have to.
Yeah.
So he told me he did it, and I said, no, man, I appreciate it. I have no idea what this is going to be, how long it's going to take me to get back to work, this and that. And he goes, well, it went good. He's like, I'm gonna take it down now, because you're out and should be set. And I was like, okay. And he goes, you got about $125,000. And I was like,
yeah. And this was like in a few days.
Yeah,
like
no,
that.
It was. I think it was only. Because they didn't put that up until, in reality, when he put it up, he wasn't sure if I was going to be alive. So I think it was a combo of getting things situated, getting my mom situated, paying down medical bills, whatever else. But it was shocking, and it was weird, because it took me a week, actually, A, being high, and B, just trying to like center it, to even come forward with how to thank that many people, because you're talking about people all over the world. And I mean, you know how it is, man. It's like, if somebody chooses to give you anything, most people are tough already. I mean, you're seeing people $10, $5, $20, $5,000. You're like, holy, you know what I mean? It was definitely, I think and a lot of things that changed due to this, which I'm actually grateful for drastically, is I had a weird perspective. I used to say openly, because I feel like people get a bit of a, get on their high horse a bit in bodybuilding. They think that they're so important in the shows and this and that. So I always say, you know what? Don't get too up on yourself, because when you're out of the game, no one's going to care.
Exactly.
Like, you're gone. Like, they will forget about you tomorrow. It won't, and I always just say, I said, people don't care. People don't care. And I didn't mean it in a bad way against people, just about how some of the bodybuilders kind of get a bit of an ego, which I don't understand, because all we do is lift weights and get big. It's not like we're curing cancer here. So to see that many people, like, and not only were they putting money, but I mean, I woke up with over 200 text messages. And then the emails were, I literally had to say when I did a verbal just thank you, I said, with all due respect, like, my brain isn't even ready, and I have 500 responses to do. So this is going to have to be my response. I read all of them, and it blew my mind, because I think what was exciting, Dennis, in hindsight, was you do the same thing. I mean, you do the podcast and all these things. Like, we do this because we love it. You don't realize that people value it, or they think it impacts their life.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of people that messaged me, and they said, hey, I donated, and the reason was
no, absolutely,
years of this, years of that. And it was humbling. You know what I mean? You wake up and you're like, okay, I guess what we're doing is more important than I like to give credit for.
No. Sometimes there's good people out there, and you're one of them, absolutely. And I donated not because you're a good person. I donated because you're a brother in iron, and you were in the hospital in a coma. You know, there's a difference if somebody starts a GoFundMe page because he wants to buy a new car.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Or because he wants to get on a vacation, or, because that's how GoFundMe pages started, because people asking for help.
Right.
It's different. And, and I always donate to GoFundMe's when I see, first of all, when I know the person.
Right.
And when I know he's a good person, there's a difference. When somebody's an asshole, then listen, hey, I'll be honest, I'm not donating.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It's like, I hate to say it, but like when John passed, I was hoping that someone would, and once they did, everyone was reaching for their wallet because the guy had done so much, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was definitely, I agree. And I've also seen some of the less generous people, I'll say, when they want to go fund me and you see crickets.
Yes. Oh, yes. No, for me, it was awesome to see how people responded to your GoFundMe page, because that shows you who you are, and I believe in you, in your heart know exactly now. And it's gonna be with you for the rest of your life, where say, listen, I got people behind me that do care. Yeah. It's not always, even though if you never speak to them in your life, there are people listening to your podcast. There are people that are watching your Instagram. You'll never meet them in person, but they really care. And that's a good thing to see, because sometimes, in bodybuilding, it loses that special moment sometimes, because everybody, the ego sometimes is so high that, because how bodybuilders are. I mean, people know each other when they're not competing. Everything's cool. Off season, they talk to each other. They call each other. Once they start dieting for a show, now they almost pretending like this is my enemy. I can't talk to him no more.
Right.
And I talked about this before, because I was like, you literally don't talk to people. Even when you get to the athletes meeting, you'll sit next to him like, this is somebody who just fucked your wife. You know what I'm saying? Right. And then
I know exactly what you mean.
And then you get through prejudging. After prejudging, all of a sudden everybody's relaxed again.
Right. Yeah, it's wild.
That's bodybuilding. But that's awesome to see, man. I'm glad you're back on your feet. I'm glad everything is good.
Yeah, it's great.
But now let's talk about bodybuilding. Dusty Hanshaw, a pro bodybuilder, man. What's going on? Are we going to see you back on stage again, or are you?
No, you know what? Now it's and this I knew before. But when I got done, or when I got out of the hospital, I should say, the first thing I did was I just wanted to see how long it would take to get back. And, to give you an idea, Dennis, like I went in 3 nights after I got out of the hospital. I went down to Muscle Factory and went in late at night, trained alone. And I remember I set up on the Arsenal shoulder press to start. And I was like, all right, I know I'm going to be weak. So I put a quarter on each side, And when it didn't move, I was like, okay, this is a little worse than I thought.
Yeah.
But what was exciting was, things came back quickly when you're talking about percentages. But B, I realized during the process how many people were benefiting from just following along. So I was recording almost every set, putting them out there. And I'd make sure to point out, like, okay, last week was this week was this. And one thing that was a little fuzzy was time. Like when I got out and I could go to the gym on my own, drive my car, get there, I felt like it had been a long time. Do you know how, like, when you finish a show and it's been like 4 weeks, but you feel like the show was like 10 years ago because the diet's over, the whole, you know what I mean? It's like, it's over. So I actually got to the point where it was about, I actually came out here to visit, and I went to the gym, and I was a little frustrated because I was doing like a hammer incline press with a plate aside. And I'm like, man, I can't believe I'm not stronger than this yet. And Nikki was like, yet. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I should be stronger. She's like, it's been 12 days. And I was like, oh. And I started doing the math and paying attention. So I just started progressing and just said, you know what? I'm not going to worry about what I used to do. I'm just going to worry about what I do each day. And it started to hit me that the keep track and posting this stuff, people were liking it, but it was impacting them. It wasn't just like, yay, Dusty. They were talking about how it was impacting their life or their chase or their realization they could do more. Then I thought about the GoFundMe, and obviously realizing I'd hit more people than I had thought. So I'm a realist. I mean, you know this, you've known me since the beginning. Like, I told people when I got into bodybuilding, like, I got to find the perfect show just to turn pro. And I never had these aspirations of top level pro, because I just knew, like, I don't know how it happens, Dennis. And I know you see this too, where somebody is in denial of their genetic abilities in bodybuilding. I never had any confusion. In fact, I just felt lucky that I came up just after you, because if I had come up in your era, I would have just gotten smoked, never turned pro, and no one would have known my name. Because back then, the only way to be known was to win. I came in right when social media started working, when YouTube started working. So a guy like me had a way to be in the game, still knowing full well, like, I'd get ready for a pro show, and I was like, man, I just hope I get top 10. We're talking about the smaller pro shows. I was hoping for that, you know? So I realized, again, I always knew that my bodybuilding wasn't on the stage, but coming after being sick, I realized my job with bodybuilding is to promote what I think bodybuilding is.
And give back.
And give back, exactly. Find a way to help, not in everybody. So it's like, because you know this, and you and I have talked, like, a lot of times when people think bodybuilding, they're talking about the Olympia, the Arnold. I'm talking about the lady from down the street who wants to lose 20 pounds for the summer. She's bodybuilding, you know what I mean? And the guys at that level. So you really can realize when you be through stuff like that and using podcasts that you can impact a lot more people than just bodybuilding, you know? So it's been really fun. And it honestly, it's even more rewarding because I haven't competed now in over 4 years. And I'll be honest, we went to the Arnold. Mutants re-signed me this year, went to the Arnold. It's been 2 years since there's been any shows. And I wasn't sure what it was going to be like, because I'm like, I'm retired. I'm openly retired. You know, I'm not a future Hall of Famer in bodybuilder or anything. So I really was like, I wonder what my impact will be. I wonder if people will even care, you know? And I didn't mean that in a bad way. I was just curious if my window was running thin, you know?
And then you got another confirmation at the Arnold.
Oh, dude, it was so busy. Yeah. The amount of people that came in, and it was because, and I'm sure you see this now, you have both. You got the people who know your career, and then you got the people that know the podcast. After the first day, and Ron Partlow obviously is on my show, hits his and I's show together. We looked at each other and we're like, this is crazy. Like, I was busier than I've ever been. You know, and it was a combination. Some people, because of the sickness, talking about that. And a lot of people were just like, man, love the podcast. You guys help so much. And I was like, so when we got done with that first day, I got on the phone with Scott McNally. He produces our show. And I said, hey, we got to go bigger. Like, I had no idea that this was this big, but now I want more. Like, you know, so it was really exciting because you start to realize, like, there's somewhere to go afterwards. And now I can bodybuild purely. I mean, it's always been for fun, but now it's really for fun. A lot of people are like, why do you train that way?
Yeah, I was about to ask you, you still train like a bodybuilder?
Oh, yeah.
You have, so you just can't let go?
No, you know, it's fun. I just love that way. And I mean, you know, of course, I got some good luck with this sickness. Is I've had every panel, heart scans, you know, everything there is. And my body is ridiculous. I mean, even the doctor was like, he's like, I can't believe your heart health and all these things. Cause I was very open. I'm like, here's what I've done. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This is the best way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And they were like, it's funny. And I don't know how you do with your show, but I'll be really blunt. There's genetics for everything in bodybuilding. And one of them is how your body can handle the things we do.
Right.
Mine apparently handled them very well. But the other thing is, when you're putting back, as you know this, when you're putting muscle back on, it's easier. Like, I got up to 280 from 230 on TRT, just by eating.
Yeah, it's a muscle memory. Yeah. Your body remembers. Yeah, and you could stay this heavy as long as you want to.
Oh yeah, it's easy. Like right now, I'm 290 right now, and I'm not pushing at all. Like, I haven't had 6 meals a day consistently I don't know, since I got sick.
But what's the goal ultimately? Do you want to stay this big, or you think it's maybe smarter?
No, I think what I want to do, actually, I don't think, I know, is I want to get through this year. I really would like to just get back to where I'm full, like I've fully developed again. Like right now, my shoulders still aren't what they used to be. I want to just touch that for me. So I go, okay, I did that again after being sick. And then really what I want to get into is a more athletic. The thing about me, Dennis, is I can't continue to train like this and get smaller, because it'll never be fun for me to go in the gym and be like, all right, we're going to deadlift, and I'm hoping to get 450 for 6. Mm-hmm. Well, I could do that with 700. Like, so that's not fun. You know what I mean? So what I have to do to get away from this is go in a totally different direction. So
different sports.
It'll still be bodybuilding related, but kind of like Seth Feroce. Like, you know, I'd like to get some athletic things in there as well. You know, actually get this body to move again, because I've been removed as an athlete for so long that it's funny and you know this from when you were at your biggest, like when people are like, oh man, you must be so, you know, they think you're an athlete. I'm like, dude, I can barely tie my shoes.
That's why I'm wearing flip-flops.
You know, so I would like to get back to feeling like an athlete, but I carry the thing that people don't realize is being big, although not pretty, being big is genetically easy for me. I mean, I graduated high school at 220.
Yeah.
You know, so my goal will be to get down to like 240. But I think that's going to be harder than I think, because every time, like I've backed off, I considered doing it earlier, just like, all right, let's start coming down. So I purposely was eating like 3 ounces of protein in a meal and being more active.
You diet down, train hard, and supplement smart for months. When the time comes to step on stage, don't leave your tan to chance. Go with the pros. Pro Tan. #1 worldwide since 1987, and the official sponsor of the Olympia for the last 15 years. Don't step on stage without it. Pro Tan.
And then like a friend would come into town and we would just have a weekend and eat and train. And
gain 15 pounds.
Boom, 20 pounds up. And I'm like, shit.
Yeah, that's exactly what I went through. And I tell you, this is going to be the hardest thing for you, because you're a guy, you like to train, and you like to train heavy. Okay?
Yeah.
So in order for you to bring it down, and this is exactly where I'm at right now. I'm between 230, 235. I feel great.
Of
you
course.
know? I don't have this, I'm not mind fucked enough to be like, oh, because people, you know, some people's like, oh man, you lost all your gains. It's like, yes.
On purpose.
Yes. You know, but there's others that if they hear that, they think they got to get back on something and just gain weight, you know, no matter what. I feel so much better now. And it took me almost 10 to 12 years to get to this point, because my weight was always around, you know, retired, 260, 265 after the weekend, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, to bring it down to 235, I literally had to cut my protein to a maximum 100 grams a day. Max.
That's hard to do.
That was one thing that was really hard, because you used to eating like at least 2 chicken breasts per meal.
Yeah.
Now
exactly.
I literally cut it in, you know, like to 100 grams of chicken.
Yeah.
And even then, I wouldn't really lose, you know. I get a little, you feel like you get a little softer, but I stopped training.
Altogether.
When I stopped training, now my body, stopped the protein and stopped the training, and my body started losing.
Right.
So now
you do cardio and stuff?
I do cardio every day. Every day. That cardio, but for me, that's mandatory. It's a must. Right. Every day, from Monday to Sunday, no days off.
Right.
But, you know, and then I really stopped training. And then the problem is, once you get to that point where you're used to it, not to train like that anymore.
Right.
Now I want to start training again, because, of course, the weight is down, but you start I'm loose, man. My shit's loose. My ass is sagging, my fucking triceps. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I was like, I got to go train.
Right.
You know, so now I'm trying to find a happy medium, you know, but I don't have that fire anymore to train. I go to the gym, I tell myself, okay, I go train. Monday, right. It's always Monday because Monday's the first day.
Yeah, that's the first day, yeah.
So I go in and I tell myself, just do 3 exercises, 4 sets each, out of there. I do the first exercise, I don't feel a pump. I'm like, you know what? This should be enough.
You leave in 4 sets.
And then I walk out, and then I don't come back till next Monday. You know, that's the other problem. So, but in order for you to bring it down to 240, you're gonna have to cut out a lot of stuff, my friend. You're gonna have to stay away from the gym or just do like high reps, very light. Just you know, especially if you want to be athletic.
That's hard because like that's in like you said, until you can get gone long enough. You know, it's like anything.
Yeah.
You know, I already, you know, I got the gym pins back. I'm using more weight than the equipment can handle again. I'm like, we're back.
Yeah. So you got to back off. You got to back off of that. Even, you know, because how old are you now?
40.
40. So you're not that old yet, but still, you're still at an age where you got to think about the future too. You know.
Oh yeah, no, it's funny because that was always my number was 40. Mm-hmm. And to be honest with you, the only reason I gave this year, even allowed it, was I just straight up asked the doc. I was like, hey, how healthy am I? Because I tell people all the time, like, when you're at this age, you don't need to be 300 pounds.
No.
You just don't. I mean, ask any doctor, they're going to tell you. Because your heart doesn't know the difference between you being 300 pounds of fat or 300 pounds of muscle. It's working its ass off.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So, but now you know you're healthy. But
keep it.
Exactly.
so don't lose it.
Exactly.
That's why I had to put a limit on myself because I was like, all right, how to step away from this. And the other thing I'm going to do is start getting into other things that I won't be able to be good at if I don't shrink.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You know, because it's like you're not going to be good at these things. You know, you're not going to be good at you know, something like jujitsu or horseback riding if you're 300-pound dude.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how you felt exactly when you came out of the hospital at 2:30, but you probably realized how easy it was to wash the back of your back, to wash your lower back, to reach, to do things, to tie your shoes and have a conversation while you tie them.
Right.
Those things.
Yeah. That's the thing is, I do think it's, and you know this, I tell guys this all the time because they'll say like, what is something that I should know, you know, chasing down, doing what you do? And I said, no one told me how uncomfortable life was. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, when I go, you know this, when you travel, first thing I do, I get in my hotel room, I call the front desk. I'm like, can I get more pillows? They're like, there's 4. I'm like, I know.
I need 2 for my legs.
That's not enough. Yeah, because it's like, because, you know, they're those squishy ones. So I need 2 just to hold my legs so it doesn't go asleep. You know what I mean? I'm like a normal person just walks into a hotel room. I bring a fan everywhere because I'm too hot.
Yeah, see, all those things I experienced, but all those things are gone.
Right.
I swear, I can sleep on the floor and it wouldn't even bother me.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely things. The other thing that I laugh about that people don't think about, it's like, oh, you like that shirt? Cool, that's not for you.
Yeah.
It don't fit, and even if it does, it looks stupid.
Yeah, so. You can't buy no clothes in the stores. Yeah,
Exactly. So
that's crazy.
But it's good, man. It's nice to be in this position, and the podcast is, you know, and obviously the social medias, it allows you to move forward because that's the one area where you and I are the same. Is like the only thing I had to do to protect myself from bodybuilding, which I started doing a couple of years ago, was I started doing the tattoos because I knew that ended it. I couldn't get that itch because I don't care if you can cover them. It ain't the same. You're not going to look like you did. And even in the gym, when I see myself looking like good, I know it would look way better as far as muscularity if the tattoos were gone.
Right.
I had a guy actually that came into the gym the other day and he's like, God, I had no idea you were this lean because you couldn't see my veins through the tattoos. I'm like, exactly.
How many tattoos did you get though?
Oh, my arms are both completely covered.
Oh, both 2 sleeves?
Oh yeah, I mean I'm hands all the way up.
Oh, see.
And I covered the shoulders too, so because you know that's the big one where once that comes through, you can't see, it gets like a blur. So I was like, this will finish bodybuilding.
Yeah, yeah. I also waited till I retired, and then I got tatted. I was like, this is just to protect myself from myself.
Exactly.
You know?
Because you know how that is though. You're like, because the thing, I guess what's good for me without sidetracking for the listeners is I enjoy prep. I always liked the mental side of how hard it was, because you feel like, and it's funny. I wish that more guys grew up in my era or your era. It was always about the training. Mm-hmm. It was always about how disgusting it. Like, and I used to watch your video when you were out in Thailand, like I screaming at you in the parking lot doing lunges at my stores, and then I'd head to the gym because that's what bodybuilding was back then. It was whether you knew what you were doing or not, it was how hard can you train, how hard can you diet. You know, it was like a badge of honor. Even a guy like me, who it's not like it was a secret that I didn't have the genetics for this, but when you get peeled out of your mind, mm-hmm. great bodybuilders are like, okay, I know what that took.
Yeah, absolutely. and that's another question that I wanted to ask you. Thank God you just started this. It's like, what do you think is the difference between the past bodybuilding era where everybody was really shredded mm-hmm. compared to now? You know, because you're somewhat in the middle, so you have an idea of both what was going on mm-hmm. back in the days and what's going on today. So what do you think is the real reason that guys just don't seem to get as peeled as the guys back in the days?
I think, and now first thing I always have to filter this with, this is an overall view mm-hmm. because the best guys are still the best guys. Right. They're still peeled out of their minds. So I always like to state that so people don't get confused. But when you go to a local level show, a regional level show, and even a national level show, it's way different now. And what it is back then, Dennis, you know this, like, I feel like the high days, the treat meals, the cheat meals, that's become a thing that people expect. When I started bodybuilding, if you needed food, your coach would be like, okay, add a cup of rice today. See, and you were ecstatic. Like, you were like, a whole cup, 200 grams.
Yeah. See, for us, it was there was no cheat days, basically,
no,
or carb cycling. No, you just go on low carbs until the fat's gone. And
that's the thing is, I remember, I know you'd know him. So the first coach I worked with was JJ Marsh.
JJ, right here from Arizona, right?
Yeah. And it was so funny because he was like my trial by fire of learning what bodybuilding was, because he taught me how to train. Like, he tried to kill me on a daily basis. I used to meet him at 4 a.m. to train. And he would try to kill me every day. And then, so I can't quote the dates, but I'm going to say roughly 5 weeks out, my diet was white fish and green beans. And if I needed it, I'd get 1 salmon meal a day. And then at one point we got so low, he was like, you know what? You don't need the greens, so just eat the fish. You know? So when these guys complain, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And the thing is, though, so I had this conversation with Aceto once. I said, man, and it was an accidental conversation. I said, I miss the days when we didn't do that.
Yeah.
And his answer to me, it was over text. He answered back. He goes, here's the thing. I really believe that 9 times out of 10, that guy still wins. The guy that doesn't do that just goes through and mm-hmm. just gets peeled. And there was something to be said for it, because, man, you'd get done and you knew. I mean, JJ told me, like, I prepped with him for months, right? And he never, like, so you'll love this because you know him. First time I went to his house, Bruce actually is the one that connected me with him, that used to own the stores. So I'm driving to his house and I text him for directions, and this is his response. This is how you get to the house. If I don't think you can win, I'm not going to work with you. Okay. This is the beginning. We go in there. I hit all my shots. He goes, okay, see you tomorrow at 4 a.m. Like, no compliment, no nothing. We prepped the entire time, and this is just a difference in the mentality back that I was taught, and you know. So we're training legs one day. It's about three or 4 weeks out. And I realized that I think he was trying to make me quit. I don't think he was training me anymore. I think he was training my brain, you know? So I realized it, and we were doing a squat machine, and I barely squeak out 20 reps, and I rack it. And he goes, all right, put a plate on. And now I'm pissed. And I said, well, why don't we put 2? trying to be a smart ass. He goes, all right, put 2. And I'm like, okay. So I put on 2. He makes me do 20 again. I mean, he's helping me. And then he's like, all right, on to hack squats. So we go to hacks. I'm on like my 4th or 5th set. And literally I bring it up and all of a sudden it starts going back down. And he grabs it and starts pulling and I'm pushing and it hits the bottom. So I get out and I'm breathing and he doesn't say anything. I said, all right, so I got 6 more. Do I just get in there or what do we do? And he looks at me and he goes, how much money do you owe me? And I paid him like $5,000 for the prep. But I was broke back then. So I was making payments. And he was like, I told him, I said, I think I owe you like $1,650. He's like, you don't owe me any money. We're just finishing this. Because he realized like, all right, this kid's got the thing in his brain. I remember, and I was poor, man. I was like, all right, don't cry because that would be pathetic. But holy shit, he just gave me $1,600.
Right. No,
you know, so
that's an awesome story.
It was just a different thing. And a lot of bodybuilding is I shouldn't say a lot of the industry is better now. So I like to point that out, but the bodybuilding at its whole is not.
Do you think they train just as hard as the guys back in the days, or you think because you see a lot of guys too?
I think that the top guys do, and I do think that old school mentality is coming back at the highest level because you see guys like Ian and those guys. I mean, they're going to war. Yeah. And I love seeing it. But for some reason, it doesn't drip down as much. And here's my take on it, Dennis. And I actually just had this light bulb moment over the weekend. I went to a bodybuilding show. And I was like, I literally left there and I said, I'm so lucky that I grew up when bodybuilding was what it was. Because my first show had 300 competitors. And everyone in the city would drive to the shows to watch. Like, it was a big deal. And everyone knew who was doing it and who was battling for the overall. And we would talk after I mean, it was like going to a movie and getting done and talking shit and, you know, the whole thing, but it was fun. And I think the only thing that we've lost right now is the industry and the world is driven by social media. And I think one thing that we have to own as the older generation is if we want to see the new generation know what we know, we need to put out the content to make them see it. You know, it's kind of like I read a quote just yesterday where it said, the problem with kids these days is parents these days. So we're the parents. If we want to teach what we did, then we have to show it. You have to put it out there. So that's the responsibility of people like you and I with podcasts, clients, is, you know, take those ones that are crazy enough and want to learn that and teach them and keep this thing alive. Because, you know, I do have a few and I'm like, man, you were born in the wrong era because you're crazy. We're going to have some fun. And I have others that, I mean, I had a guy just recently, he hired me 13 weeks out. So I said, all right, well, we'll start now. And at 12 weeks out, he asked me about a cheat meal. And I was like,
you should say, yeah, you can get it in 10 weeks.
Yeah, I was like, we are 7. I mean, like, it's just weird because it is a different mindset because they were taught that.
And the cheat meal for them is like sitting by the buffet and going through everything.
Oh, rocking.
You know what my cheat meal was back in the days?
What's that?
I kid you not. I went to Burger King and I ordered a double Whopper, just the patties and the buns. That's it.
And you were in heaven.
Just the patties, double patty, and the bun. No salad, no cucumber, no pickle, no nothing.
Right.
And then just ketchup and mustard, and I was happy.
Oh, yeah.
So basically all I had was a bun.
Yeah. But the thing is, and you know this, and this is what I'm trying to get out to guys, is like when you give everything, I mean everything, and your diet is nasty and you make it to the stage. So my best memory as a bodybuilder was the 2011 Nationals. It's the worst placing of my entire career. But I told Chris at the beginning of the prep, Chris Aceto, I said, I want to be the most shredded guy in the show. That's what I told him. And in hindsight, both of us kind of stopped looking at my body, and I lost a lot of muscle. And you'll understand this, but I realized after the show, I use the second to highest click on like a lat pull down always. there was a point during that prep I had to bring it down one more. Well, I didn't get shorter. So that tells you my legs were getting smaller. But the thing is, man, is I was the most shredded guy in the entire show, without question.
I think I remember that show.
And two,
I think I was there.
Yeah, you were there. And actually, I met Jose Raymond that weekend too. And what was funny is when I met him, I didn't meet Jose, because you don't meet Jose like a normal human. I was walking out from backstage and I hear this guy, "Holy shit, you were shredded." And I'm like, he's like, "Dusty Hand, I don't give a shit what you placed. That was nasty." And between that and just during the prep, man, like, and I know you've been there, hell, probably beyond what I've even felt, where during the prep, you're literally having conversations with yourself. Like, I can do this. I can finish this meal. And you'll like this. This is during that prep. Chris Aceto actually contacted me at one point and he said, "Dusty, I do not want you thinking further than an hour in advance for the rest of this prep." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "It's too much." Because I owned a business back then also. He's like, if you try to take on your whole day mentally when you're this tired, it'll eat you up. He's like, so at 12 o'clock, you're allowed to look till 1 o'clock and say what needs to be done and knock it down one thing at a time. And he explained to me, so he had stage 4 cancer at one point. And basically, I can't name the type anymore, but the survival on that's like 16%. So everyone dies. And he told me, he said, I would sit in bed in the morning and realize I have to go to the bathroom. And he goes, and I would have to build up the courage to go to the bathroom, to actually express that energy to do it. And he goes, then after I got done peeing, I would ask myself, do I have the energy to brush my teeth, or do I have to go back to bed? He said, but never would I ever have the guts to say when I was getting out of bed, I'm going to go to the bathroom and brush my teeth. So when he explained the hour thing to me, he would say, how you feeling? And every day I would go, it's not stage 4. Like, that was my answer. Like, I ain't dying. This is by choice. And I would like more guys to experience that, because now, like you said about guys who worry about shrinking or worry about this or being softer or whatever, I'm like, bitch, I did that. Like, so when you've done that and you're satisfied with your efforts, just like you, just like me, I can shrink. I don't ever have to be shredded again. I've done it. Like, done. You know what I mean? So
that's
it's
good.
A different place.
That's good to know you think that way, and that tells me that you got a good plan and execute it to the fullest. Keep doing your thing. You're going to stay relevant. You're going to be one of those guys. You don't need to compete. You're going to stay relevant regardless. Because you helped too many people.
Yeah, it's fun.
I want to talk to you for another 2 hours, man, for real. For real. But I can't right now, so I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to bring you back. I'll find a reason to get you back on here and talk about some more.
Of course.
Thank you, brother, for the time, man. I really appreciate it, you coming on. And listen, maybe we can do a collab one day with the podcast to do something together, or if you guys, I'm always in.
I'd love to have you on as well.
Absolutely. Just let me know when, and it's done.
Sounds like a plan, man. I appreciate you.
All right, brother. Take care, man. God bless. Take care of yourself. And stay safe.
Will do, man. Talk soon.